Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Get to Know Her show. I'm so excited. Today, we have a big guest. I met this woman about 3 or 4 years ago, and I just love her. Her name is Lisa McDonald. You know what? It was longer than that. Lisa and I are going to go take a little trip down memory lane and tell you how we met. Lisa McDonald is amazing. I'm going to actually read you how amazing she is here. She wears many hats. She is a successful author. She's a motivational speaker. She's a TV and radio host, personal development coach, and a mentor to many, and a mother of two. I cannot wait for you guys to meet Lisa today. And before we get started, I wanted to do another shout out to our amazing sponsor, Brenda Bedome. I hope you guys have had a chance to go on her website and check out all her beautiful clothes. So today I have a funny story for you. I'm actually wearing one of her tops. And this is, well, it's more than just a top. It's a perfect white shirt. So I'm going to stand up a little bit so you can see. It's gorgeous. It's nice and long. And then with it, which is hard to see, I have this funky little black skirt. And you know what I love about the skirt? It goes right to the knees, and it sort of fits like a pencil skirt, but it's that nice, and Brenda's going to kill me. I don't know the names of fabric, but it's like that jersey fabric. So it's a little bit stretchy. It feels like I'm wearing like a track pants skirt, but it looks like I'm wearing like a sexy little pencil skirt. So you guys have to check out her skirt and her beautiful crisp white blouse on her website. And today, so last night I came home and I was so tired, and I still had a lot of work to do. I had to make jewelry at home. And I went to, I walked in the house and I said to my husband, just please order pizza tonight. I can't even think about cooking or anything. So we ordered pizza. I brought some for lunch today, and I swear to God, you guys, I had the pizza in the toaster oven. I took it out and I could see it in slow motion, like flipping towards my Brenda Bedome white shirt, and I caught it just in time with my plate. So the shirt's still white. I'm not sure how it's going to look by the end of the day, but it looks good now. So if you want to check out Brenda, you can go to brendabedome.com, and do not forget to use the coupon code Get to Know Her, all one word, and you will get 13% off of your order, which is awesome. So without further ado, I see Lisa in my virtual green room, and I'm going to bring her on right now. Lisa.
Hello.
Look at you.
How are you? I'm great. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm so happy that you're here. Like, this is fantastic. And I was just telling the folks how you and I met, and I didn't say how we met, but I was guessing it was about 3 or 4 years ago, but it's not. It's longer than that.
Is it that long?
So
okay, so let's give the lay of the land for that. Yeah, so I no longer do TV, but I once upon a time, as you know, because you were an awesome guest on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald with the 365tvnetwork.com, Priya Ali's network. And so you were lovely because you invited me to an event, right? There was a bunch of vendors, myself included. We got to meet wonderful people. Right. I got to meet your lovely mother, and got to sell my books and have great conversation with people. And and again, I don't believe in coincidences, as you know, Monica. So because originally we were going to do a different date, right? Yeah. Then we did this date, and we didn't know until it came up in our archives that this marks the anniversary date of when you and I did TV together on my show. And you said something about coincidence. And I was like, no, there's no coincidences. There's nothing at all random about that. It's synergistically aligned, and it was meant to unfold.
It was. And you know, it's so funny. When I wrote, Lisa, what a coincidence, I knew you were going to, as soon as you read that, you were going to go, no, there's no such thing as coincidence.
No such thing.
Oh my God. I know that was so cool. And I was trying desperately to find a photo of the two of us together. And I had that one from the TV somewhere. But yesterday, I don't know if you had a chance to look at the Instagram stories today. My picture is actually a screenshot of you and I on your TV show. You're
I
interviewing
uploaded
me,
it.
but it kind of looks like I'm interviewing you the way my.
Yes, I uploaded that to Facebook.
Oh, that's
I
great.
uploaded that to Facebook and tagged you on
Oh,
that.
that's wonderful.
So here
Oh,
we are
that's so
again.
great.
Fast
Here
forward,
we
right?
are again. But I have to take you back a little bit further to how I very first met you. Okay, you might not remember this, but this was pretty awesome. You approached me, and the way that it happened was I was doing a campaign for Halton Food for Thought to help kids with bracelets. And I so boldly asked Rob Pruce from the Spoons if he would share my post because he's from Burlington originally.
Correct.
And you are friends with Rob, but I didn't know you then. And you reached out to me and said, "Hey, saw this great post from Rob. Who are you? What are you doing? This is great. How come I don't know about Glam Jewels? You were so wonderful." And then you said, "I want to interview you on my radio show." So that was our first interview. You
I
actually
totally
interviewed
forgot
me.
about that.
Yeah, you interviewed me on your radio show. Then I invited you to come to the Glam Jewels studio to participate in a shop local event, which is what you're talking about, where you met my mom.
Yes.
And then after that, you had me on your show, and now here we are again, 3 years later.
Hard to believe.
I know, it's so
Hard to
crazy.
believe. I never would have guessed because I don't even think I looked at it when I uploaded it, how many years ago it in fact was.
Yeah,
Um, but it feels like yesterday
I know.
in
It's
some
so
regards, but then in other aspects, it feels like it was a lifetime ago because then COVID took over, right?
right. Yeah,
And
and
so
you
we
see
all lost
everything.
some concept of time, even though it's
Yeah,
a
for
to,
sure.
to begin with.
Yeah, for sure we have. So now I want to take you on a big trip down memory lane, Lisa.
I love trips.
Oh, good. I want to know what little Lisa wanted to do when she was a little girl. What did little Lisa want to be when she grew up? And, or even what was her first sort of entrepreneurial thought? Tell us all about the little girl.
Well, at different stages, I can't recall chronologically at different junctures what I in fact wanted to be, but at one point I wanted to be an Olympic swimmer. And I used to swim competitively for Hamilton Wentworth Aquatic Club as well as the Brantford Aquatic Club because I bounced all over the place. Um, but I did, in fact, swim with Joanne Millar, who went on to represent Canada, and I forget which Olympics it was. And then she was a coach for competitive swimmers as well. And she may, in fact, still be doing that. I think she's now, if I'm not mistaken, she's out in Vancouver. Um, and I actually went to university with her sister, who used to swim competitively as well. And so it was always my aspiration, because I've always been a very competitive person, but I've been competitive with myself. I don't compare myself to other people. You know, it's really, and it's a very individualized sport, right? So in terms
Right.
of trying to aspire to get your best times, it's always about shaving time off your time in which to reach your best times and to perfect your own stroke. So I was never in competition, even in competition with the people beside me. It was always about, I'm going for my best time. I'm going for a perfected stroke. I'm going, just streamlining my whole performance.
Wow.
And, and so, it's again, no coincidence when we talk about my realm of industry, personal growth, personal development.
Hmm.
You see all these things that now go up about not being in competition with other people, only being in competition with yourself. Well, I had already honed that mindset and understood that concept long before it became a buzzword or a cliche or flavor of the month. And so that self-discipline, because it was a 7 days a week grind. It was
Hmm.
6 or 7 days a week. I can't recall. I think 6 days a week, twice a day. So it would be like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning before school, and then be back in the pool at 6 after school. And then you did weight training and ate eggs, raw eggs, and I mean it was
Oh
hard,
my gosh. So
hardcore.
Was this part of high school? Like, was it through your high school swim team that where you started, or did you start
No,
even younger than that? Or
it was a competitive. It's Brantford
it
Aquatic Club
was
and the Hamilton Wentworth Club Aquatic Club is its own club
okay, okay,
within the city, and so I was doing that way before high school, and I did it after high school. And after high school, I'd kind of lost my peak, so I'd plateaued a bit, but I did it just to keep in shape. And because
okay.
I love the water, I love swimming, and it's,
Yeah.
but I learned a lot of things about sport. I learned a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things about sport that have certainly transcended my journey in the entrepreneurial world, right? Because you've got to
Yeah.
micromanage and you've got to be really effective with your time and you've got to know what to outsource if it's not, in fact, your skill set, your strengths. Because
Mm-hmm.
you've got to capitalize on what, in fact, are your strengths and meet your stringent deadlines. So, it's equally important to know what you don't know and what you're not
Mm-hmm.
good at as compared to what you do know and what you excel at. And
Yeah.
then when you can relinquish ego that's associated with that so that you're not micromanaging everybody who you've appointed to particular positions so that it all syncs up.
Yeah.
Um, that's when you know that you're in the zone with what it is that you're doing, right? You got to
Yeah.
trust the universe that people know what they're doing. And I've been very fortunate and very blessed with Shelly Kipp, who's on my team, and and other people that I have collaborated with and partnered with, and people who are sponsors on my show, and the
Yeah.
guests. Like I've just, it's I've had a good ride with it. And
Yeah.
it's not to suggest by any means that there haven't been glitches or setbacks or things that have
Mm-hmm.
gone awry or things that didn't meet certain timelines in terms of my forecasted long-term goals. But I never quit. And if you're cut out for entrepreneurial,
Mm-hmm.
the one thing that can never be that can never be negotiable is the resiliency and the tenacity, the fortitude and the vision in which not to quit. That's non-negotiable, no matter how
Right.
hard things are, whether things like pandemics hit, you
Yeah.
just got to pivot. You got to pivot and
Yeah.
go with it.
And I wanted to ask you about that, Lisa. Is that something you learned growing up? What was it like with your parents growing up? As far were they supportive of you, like even with your swimming? Um, were they supportive in everything you were passionate about, or what was your experience there?
Uh, Without going into too much detail, because my
Yeah,
stuff, I'm an open book, and my stuff is everywhere. It's in my book. It's in my Harvard speech. It's in everything.
yeah.
Um, but I've been on my own since 16, right?
Okay.
So financially independent, put myself through school, bought my own braces, um, you know, all of that. And for swimming, yeah, there was a time where there was carpooling, and my parents were good in that facet.
Mhm.
And I've learned a lot of valuable lessons from both my parents, which has been instrumental in my decision making as a parent, as an entrepreneur, as a human being that just elects to show up in life. Because everything has contrast, right? So the things
Mhm.
that you have learned about, either, because we've all been programmed, right? At different
Yes.
parts in our life, we've all been programmed. And sometimes the blueprint needs to be reconstructed, right? You got to
Mhm.
put yourself under construction and you've got to rebuild. And that encompasses taking a look at your core central values. It doesn't matter what you were brought up to necessarily subscribe to believing in. You've got to
Mhm.
become discerning and become your own critical thinker and go, to what degree is that perhaps in alignment with me or completely out of alignment with me? So I've always navigated and defaulted to my intuition in which to make good choices. And have I made a lot of bad choices? Have I been misguided or misled by people who I thought that I once upon a time knew? It happens to all of us, right?
Mhm.
But I've never defaulted into that energetic sphere of allowing myself to stay jaded or pessimistic. I learned the lesson, I apply the lesson, and then I move on.
Hmm. Oh, that's great. You know what? I heard someone say once, Lisa, that, no matter what in your family life, whatever it is, good, bad, a little bit of both, whatever it is,
Mhm.
family is like a cult. And there is a time where you have to sit down and say exactly what you just said. Do I subscribe to this? Is this lined up with my core values? And become that individual that is separate from the nuclear family, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. And I mean, I
yeah,
will say to him, as far as my dad goes, so I'll just talk about him very briefly and
yeah.
give him a nod. So he's been highly successful and he's led a very interesting life. Once upon a time, he used to be a musician, both professional and amateur. And so he was part of that whole British invasion. And he used to play with bands like The Who before The Who became officially The Who, right?
Oh,
And I've interviewed my dad, it's all there. And so he used to be part of the entertainment for the Merchant Navy. And so every time they docked at a port, so he's traveled the whole world. So every time they would dock, they would have entertainment night. And so he played with Bo Diddley. Right, Bo Diddley said, "Do you want
wow.
to?" So, he's done that. He's been on YouTube. He had his with the group that he was with at the time, the band. They were on the top 20 charts in the UK, and it went number one in Russia. Um, so he's had a lot of success. He's also been inducted into the Hall of Fame for soccer as a builder coach. I think he's got I think he's been inducted 3 times now. And he's a professor at the college. He's in and out of retirement. They keep calling him up. They don't want to let him go. And he's got a lot of vitality left within him, and he likes to be useful, and he's very purposeful. And so I've derived a lot of, I think, my work ethic and my professionalism and having high standards from my father. So I'm immensely grateful to him for that.
That's great, Lisa. Wow.
Yeah.
What was the name of the band that he played for?
That particular band that had that kind of success, they were called The Voice. They were called The Voice, and that particular song was called Train to Disaster.
Okay, we'll have to look that
Yeah,
up.
it's on YouTube, and when you find it on YouTube, if I'm not mistaken, there might be a couple of different visuals that go with that, but the one that I always remember, it's the big mod sign, the bullseye, right?
Okay, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
Wow. So,
So
Lisa, what happened for you after high school? Did you decide you wanted to go and pursue a higher education, or what? Or were you like me and said, "No, thanks"?
uh, higher was a key
Or
word. Education. I kind of had a little hiatus of going off the rails. I needed to go within
okay.
and figure myself out. So that would be my stage in life where I made a lot of poor decisions, but I don't regret anything in my life because
Mhm,
I believe that I truly believe, and I've said this and prefaced this before, that to know what your actual purpose in life,
mhm,
I don't believe it's birthed out of passion. I believe it's birthed out of desperation. And so because I've been at different junctures in my life where I've really been left to my own devices to navigate my way through life and to make sense of things and to latch on to the things that are going to help me get more exceptionally clear within myself. What are my boundaries? What are my goals? What am I inspired by? What is the big long-term vision that I hold for myself? So once I got out of party mode and got out of self-destructive sabotage mode, then I very clearly, and again, this is why contrast is so important, because once you have a taste of what doesn't really truly resonate with who you are at the heart level within your soul, you
mhm.
can only do that for so long. And then you're propelled. You're just naturally, instinctively propelled to say, I've bottomed out. I've had enough. I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere fast. And I know that I'm meant for bigger things. I know
Right.
that I'm meant for bigger things. So that comes from doing a lot of work. I do a lot of self work on myself.
Mhm.
Um, that's part of my daily regimen. I'm always
Yeah.
looking to get exceptionally clear within myself. And by getting exceptionally clear as a human being, then I get exceptionally clear with all other facets of my life, parenting, entrepreneur, business,
Mhm,
bringing my A game to what I do to shine the light on other people's brilliance when I interview them on Living Fearlessly with Lisa McDonald. Anybody
mhm.
who I interact with, have an exchange with, I'm very cognizant to what degree am I showing up? And am I showing up as the best,
Right.
most improved version of myself? Because
Right.
it's a domino effect. What we emanate out there, it's contagious. So whether it's
Mhm.
toxicity or whether it's things that serve other people intuitively, that as an uplifter, as an encourager, as optimism, as inspiration. I don't want to be responsible for contaminating the world any more than it already is. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be problem saturated. I want to be solution focused.
Yeah, that's great.
It's conscious
Yeah.
decision making. It really is.
Yes, yeah. And it's so interesting what you say, like that period. I mean, I sort of, I don't know if it was similar to you, but after high school, I was like, this is not, no, like I'm not going for a university or college. It's not me. I decided to backpack through Europe. I did a couple other things. And then I met, the wrong boyfriend, moved in with him. Like I was 21 years old. And I look back on those years and I think that wasn't even me. And I remember feeling like so much guilt and shame for having ended up in a relationship like that. And why did I do that? And the beating, you're beating yourself up. Why did I make this choice? And that's not how I was raised. Why was I even attracted to, like, all of this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're right. Like I do, looking back now, I see how those feelings of guilt and shame like propelled themselves to attracting more of that crap.
Yes.
You see it in friends, and you see it in, like, when they talk about, toxic people in your life or whatever, it would just be this repetition. And it is through work and really going inside and seeing what's happening inside when you start to understand that guilt and shame don't serve us.
No, they're
And
life lessons. And again, you
yes,
can't morph into who you know you're meant to be without having had those experiences. It's
right.
like it's like gratitude, right? I'm grateful for everything every single day. I take nothing lightly. I take nothing for granted. But I think the reason why I live within that sphere of perpetual gratitude is because I know what it's like to have nothing. I know what it's like to feel like nothing. I know what it's like to feel like I'm showing up as nothing or being perceived
Mm,
as nothing. So
right.
when you've had enough of those experiences and you know it's not in alignment with who you actually are, even though the journey is, well, who am I? What am I? What do I stand for? And tapping into your actual worthiness and deservingness, then you emanate a different energy. And when people and energy is more powerful than the spoken word. Somebody can walk into a room and you know what they're all about just by what they're giving off before they even open
Yes.
their mouth. And so that's your introduction. And so when I energetically am consciously aware of the ways in which I want to choose to elect to deliberately, intentionally every single day show up, there's no coincidence to what kind of people I'm attracting or
Hmm.
what kind of people I'm repelling, right? People who are negative, they can't handle my aura. And
Hmm.
that's great. That's wonderful because
Yes,
I don't want you in my sphere.
that's right. It's a real shield around you.
It's a real shield. And
Yeah.
but the thing is, I'm very protective of my energy, and because I've had enough life experience and because I always default to my intuition, spidey senses, gut feeling, inner voice, whatever, universe,
Hmm.
whatever you want to call it, uh, I've had enough experience and I've been immersed in all pockets, walks of life to know instantaneously if my energy is not magnetizing in the way that I want it to with somebody else, even if we've never exchanged a word, I trust my intuition to go in the opposite direction.
Hmm.
I don't need to play out some unnecessary saga drama in my life to go, had I listened to my intuition, I could have spared myself all of that, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
I trust myself enough. I know myself enough. I believe in myself enough that I'm very staunch in what my non-negotiables are. And because
That's
I emanate that energy, um, people will either flock to me or they'll fade off into the background, or
hmm
they'll have their little test with what can I push, what can I get away with,
right.
and then it's like I know what that's all about. I'm not entertaining that. I'm not the least bit interested. Sorry.
Wow.
Bye.
And Lisa, you have two young children now. I mean, God, to have you as a mom,
Thank you.
what a blessing. So how are you teaching them these lessons while at the same time letting them have their own experiences to also learn that contrast? Because I can imagine, as a mom, you want to protect your kids too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'd be interested to know how you balance that.
Great question. Great question. Because my number one role and priority in life, first and foremost, will always be that of my children. And I believe in free will. I believe in autonomy. I believe in individuality. I believe in giving people the infrastructure of support and the tools so that they can go fly. So I'm not a helicopter mom, but based on some of my own life experiences, I'm also, it's taken me a while as they continue to get older, right? So what they want to do to become more exploratory or more independent, but then it's like,
Yeah.
uh, you know, you're not equipping them properly for the real world if you don't loosen the strings a little bit, the purse strings, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think because I'm all about example setting, right? And it's not to be fabricated. It's not to be contrived, or to be disingenuous. I'm just so in what I'm doing and the multiple hats in which I wear. The kids can see through example and living under the same roof. This is how mommy navigates life. This is the jargon she says on the phone. These are the words, right? And I'm all about feelings, right? I do mentoring and coaching as well. So I've got and I have had since the kids were very young, and they still come out. I've got feelings cards, right? Emotion. So we talk
Oh,
about emotions,
yeah.
right? Because different stages of development, different life experiences, and day to day will bring about a different context for what it is that we feel or the reasons for why we feel what we feel, even if we can't perhaps articulate it, right? How many times have we felt something we don't know why, or we feel sad when there's nothing indicative of what's going on in our life that should make us feel sad, but we just feel that. Or we feel happy because we're living in a sphere of gratitude, but everything's falling apart around us. Like there's all kinds of dualities in our reality and polarities, to explain what's going on. So I talk about things that are really matter because I don't have time for fluff with anyone. I don't have time for light and fluffy with anyone. I don't say that to be disrespectful. I don't come from a place of hierarchy. I don't come from a place of superiority. I don't come from any of that. But I value my time and I value my energy. So I'm all in if it's talking about to what degree are you as an individual open and receptive to bouncing off that good energy. So what is it you need and what do I have that you don't have, and vice versa. So my kids know about reciprocity. They know about generosity. They know about what it means to be of service and to pay it forward, because we do a lot of volunteerism. I have friends, different friends for different situations and circumstances that have happened in their lives, call it death. And so the remaining family members, we rally and we champion and we show up. A friend of mine who has had MS. And so the kids and I, regardless of their ages, we would do the once a year MS walk. I've supported, I've initiated and spearheaded a lot of fundraisers and donations and charity type events. And that goes back to my prior vocation of being in senior management within social services. So whatever the agency demographic was, or the particular mission statement, or that particular clientele population that we were providing delivery of service to, I've always been immersed in whatever it is I'm doing at that particular time. So there's nothing new in my messaging. I've just taken the transferable skills of what I used to do once upon a time, and always being the advocate that I was, and empowering other people to empower themselves, and being about personal growth and personal development, and being very much about energy. And now I've put it into my international platform so that my message lands with as many people as possible at once.
Yeah. Wow. I love what you said about that, about the value, like putting your energy into people and looking for something deeper than fluff, because I think that is something, like the whole notion of small talk, and you know, when I think of people that I've met where, you know, it is this kind of small talk, talking about nothing. And I just want to say to them, you're so much more than that. Like, why are we talking about that? Like, let's get deep, you know? And you're right. Like, now as you're saying it, I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking, like, that is really those types of connections we make. Actually, one of the people who are watching right now is a friend of mine, Sarah Turrell. And Sarah and I went on a trip together with a networking group. We didn't really even know each other very well. Like, we were acquaintances, but being there together, the whole situation, we bonded like sisters. Like, it was crazy. Like, we couldn't get enough of each other. We were up in the morning, out late at night, like, where's Sarah, where's Monica? Like, we were looking, you know. And it was like, Lisa, the best way I can describe it, it was the two little girls getting together.
Love it.
That's what it felt like with this friend Sarah. And that, you know, when you and I are together, I feel that too. It's like we're connecting.
Synergy.
Yeah, and it is that youthful little spirit that has found something that she needs, I think.
Absolutely. And two things I will say to touch upon that, because you're so absolutely right. And it's a really valuable point in which to delve further into for an extra moment here. So going back to the small talk aspect, you know, I think how I break that down very quickly, and to know to what degree people are receptive, because some people have a hard time putting themselves out there. Like, they're more than what they are, but they think perhaps other people aren't. So they withhold, right? This is where risk and taking risk and being courageous and showing up in the moment, every opportunity in which you do, to truly show up for your true, authentic self, regardless of how you get judged, misunderstood, things get misconstrued. So vulnerability, and I talk about this quite extensively too, it's a strength, it's not a weakness. And so to the degree, because we're all human beings, we've all walked the path of whatever obstacles or trials and tribulations or traumas or mishaps that have presented and shown up and surfaced in each of our own individual lives. So although people may not necessarily relate to your specific circumstances for what that might include or what that might entail, we know that we've all felt and been on the spectrum of emotion. We've all felt the plethora of emotion. And so for a person to, which I do, like if I'm sensing small talk, I'll still default to giving people the benefit of the doubt and think that maybe they're just not comfortable to initiate being the one to put themselves out there. So I'll bring up something, and it'll be appropriate to whatever is going on that could be further discussed, right? So if you take something that's happening in the global news, to what degree they're willing to go deeper into that subject matter, not just the superficiality of it or the mainstreamness of it or whatever of it. And so, you know, when I have an opportunity to bring forth a subject matter that everybody would be in the know about, and then to see to what degree that person can delve deeper into that subject matter and talk about to what degree it's perhaps impacted them, or what their perspective of, even if they fall into the category of conspiracy theorist or whatever the case may be, you know, show me who you really are. And if I can only get so far with that, I've opened the door, right? And I'll offer something that shows my soul, right? How I think. And they either latch on or they don't. And then I know, is this going to be a 20-minute conversation, or is this going to be a quick hi-bye? Right? And then
so powerful.
But I showed up as my true self. I didn't buy into the superficiality of thinking that that's all that could happen in that exchange, because I value my time.
Yeah, that's great. Lisa, you know what I'd love to hear from you as well is like, you know, even for, I think I'm speaking for a lot of people who are watching right now, like, you know, we try to stay positive. We try to see that there's still opportunity. There's good things. And, you know, this whole idea of contrast, and to wake up every morning and to feel grateful, and to feel grateful for the good things that happened in the day before bed.
Yep.
But what happens when all that just goes to hell in a handbasket? Like, because I think that sometimes life is so busy, and I know for me too, it can be one thing after the other, and everybody has their thing. My thing is the saboteur, where I'm like, why did you do it that way? Why didn't you do it this way? And it's like this negative talk in my head where I'm
Mm-hmm.
judging and I'm very hard on myself and I should have done better and I should have
Mm-hmm.
shot higher and why didn't I do that 20 years ago? So that's like the evil side of Monica, you
Yeah.
know, and it's like,
It exists
and
within
then
all of us.
right.
But
And then you do this whole like, I don't want to be like that. I want to be like this. And this is who I truly am. And it's this constant like angel devil kind of fight. So I'd love to hear your perspective on how do
zoo,
we handle this? Yeah.
right? What is it? The Great Kazoo, whatever it's called.
Yeah, the Great Kazoo, that's right.
Fred
Yeah.
Flintstone.
Yes.
Well, my simple
Love it.
answer to that, because that we all, again, being human, you can't be
Mm-hmm.
completely detached from that, right?
Right.
That's going to
Yeah.
flare up. That's going to show up. That's going to come to the surface.
Yeah.
But again, dependent on to what degree people are invested in their own healing journey or being committed to personal growth and personal development and doing things and latching on to things and in re-indoctrinating the things that are more intuitively sound to accentuate and to accelerate your own growth. And mindset being a big part of that, of course. So what I say in those particular situations in response to that question, Monica, and it's a great question because we all grapple with it. I try, you know, and I've had many out of body experiences in my life, right? So I get outside of myself and I become the observer of who I am in that moment. I have the capacity to do that, and I can do that very quickly. So what I say to mentoring clients and what I say on radio and things of that nature is, okay, so let's take what you just said, and let's say that that was what was being vomited back to you by somebody who was disclosing to you, confiding in you, being vulnerable with you in that moment. And all they were doing was basically crapping all over themselves. Would you entertain that? Would you engage that? Or would you like stop them in their tracks and say, have you forgotten what you've done in this situation? Have you forgotten that you accomplished this? Have you forgotten to what degree people flock to you or are magnetized to you because this is how you choose to show up in the world? Are you forgetting everything else that you've done that has shifted someone else's thinking or shifted someone else's day? You know, would you give your friend or that client or whomever we're making reference to in that example, would you give them license and permission to continue self-imploding and detonating right in front of you? Or would you do something instantaneously to reverse course on that and offer a more actual reality-based perspective in which to get them recalibrated and to pivot quickly and to get them out of that energetic space? So once you can, like, what kind of friend are you going to be?
Oh,
Right?
that's beautiful. I like feel a bit teary as you're saying that. It's so true.
But it is so true
Yeah.
because instantaneously, if you know yourself to be a good person, if you know your worthiness, your deservability, if you know that you are generally speaking a good person who does kind things and doesn't squander an opportunity to be your best, do your best, give your best, offer your best, say your best, present your best, right? You can't gloss over that. You can't negate all the good stuff in the one moment that's causing your world, to have a tower moment where you're crumbling or you're just like can't get out from underneath that rock. So because people have a hard time, we're too close to it. So the only thing I can do and what works for me is I get outside of it. And again, not everybody can do the out of body experience, but for my own background story, it happened to me all the time. So I can then become the observer of what I'm thinking, what I'm spewing, what I'm feeling, and what I'm allowing. And then I quickly say, Lisa, you would never shit on someone else like that. Why, therefore, are you doing it to yourself? You're no less important. You're no less significant. You're no less worthy. You're no less deserving. What you're doing is going to take you further down the rabbit hole. It's not going to propel you into the lightness and the brightness, which is where you ideally want to be operating from. So stop it.
Yeah.
I don't give myself
Wow.
permission to stew in that for too long. I really
Yeah.
don't. I really don't. It's a choice, and it's a discipline, right? So when
Mm-hmm.
people talk about they incorporate into their daily regimen things like yoga or meditation or reading at least a good couple of chapters from a personal growth, personal development, or a business book or whatever that's going to shift you. That's part of my DNA now. That's part of my daily regimen. What residuals am I still perhaps holding on to from yesterday or last month or last year that I need to just dispel of that? I need to just like
Right.
get that out of my energy sphere, right?
Wow.
Because
So
it's toxic. You can be
it
toxic
is.
with yourself. It's not just
Yes.
it's not just about toxicity in your external world.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And generally, if you're a toxic person, it's because you're unleashing the toxicity within yourself. So
Right.
if you can recognize and you're tapped into your own level of self-awareness, perhaps I'm giving off this vibe because I'm toxic with me. Right? The
Wow.
most important relationship you'll ever have in this world, because you're always with yourself 24/7. I don't care how great or expansive your infrastructure of support is, personally, professionally, or both. You are
Mm-hmm.
always, you could be sitting in like a party, you could be at a wedding, you could be at a whatever venue where
Mm-hmm.
everybody's supposed to be upbeat and high vibing. But if this is not good, if you're like, if the reel is on, it's just looping all the crap and all that other
Wow.
stuff, um, you're going to emit that energy, and you're going to
Yeah.
attract more of what you say you don't want and what you're fed up with back into
Right.
your life, because the energy responds accordingly.
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. Lisa, you're right. I do want to talk to you for 8 hours. We were joking about that before we started. So,
Anytime, my dear, anytime. I could talk
um,
about this stuff ad nauseum because I believe in it. I
yeah.
really believe in it. I mean, people talk about what they're religious, spiritual. This is my religion, right?
Yes. Yeah.
This
And
is my
so,
daily cleanse.
yeah. And I love your whole business model about live fearlessly with Lisa. Like if I'm having a downer day, I go to your page and I read like 2 or 3 posts and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I'm a rock star. Screw this shit."
You're a
Like
rock
it
star anyway.
but it makes me feel so good, and it's you're always reminding people to be grateful and to not take shit. Like that, to me, that's you, and I think it's so fantastic. And so I'd love to know, like, how did Live Fearlessly come to be? Why is it so important to you to live fearlessly?
I appreciate that, because if you don't, and I just did
Yeah.
this in a newsletter, my last Saturday newsletter piece, right? If you don't step into your own power, everybody suffers. It's plain and simple,
Mm,
right? Just like if you're vomiting all over people and breathing negativity,
yeah.
right? People suffer. So
Yes.
if you don't step into your power, you don't show up and offer your gifts and use your voice, raise your voice, take a stand, right? If you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Um, and so I don't want to be ambiguous in my life. I don't want to be wishy-washy. There's a lot of things that because I'm very vocal and I'm very open, and I know that because I'm publicly out there and because I do
Mhm.
exercise my voice, um, that by doing so, I'm putting myself in the line of fire for ridicule, skepticism. People all of a sudden forget all the good shit that you stand for and that you
Mm,
represent. Now it's like,
yeah.
right? And it's like, bring it, bring it. And it's not to be combative. It's not to be combative, but you know what? I just touched a nerve in you. And that's good, because
Yeah.
that's meaningful. That's not fluff, right? That's not
Right.
superficiality. So and you know what? I'm always asking and welcoming and embracing and inviting opportunities for my thinking to get challenged, for my beliefs to be challenged, right?
Right.
We get so stuck on things, and we have a hard time surrendering. Even if we know we've got the daily proof or the decade proof of a shitty relationship or whatever the case may be, we don't want to relinquish what we once upon a time believed to be true, because when something opposing is in your face and it makes you feel really uncomfortable, that then puts you in a position of having to alter your reality or your mindset or your belief system. And a lot of people don't know who they would be without all the things that they identify with or that they proclaim as their identity. Right? So
Yeah.
if you're committed to change, and I mean, because I'm so committed to change and evolution of self, I'm not always the same person I was yesterday. Right?
Mm.
I mean, I'm at the, like, my value system generally never changes. Right? But my openness and my receptivity to ideology, philosophy, politics, I'm always open to listening and being discerning and doing my own research and going, okay, to what degree is there some merit to that or to some credibility? Do you have to be 100% opposed to everything 100% of the time? No, you don't. You know, do
Right.
you have to change sides on something? Not necessarily. But can you then, as an experience to seeing why other people think the way they think, or they do what they do, or they don't do what they don't do, then you're expanding your field of receptivity to accentuating and accelerating your own growth, because you're not narrow-minded,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yes. Right.
I don't want to be the same person I was 10 years ago. That's a shitty sign if I'm the same person as I was 10 years ago. If
Yeah.
everything in my life was status quo, if everything was predictable, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's no growth in that.
Yeah. That's right. Wow. I want to go do something big now.
You
I
are.
want I want to go jump off a cliff.
You never had this show
Fudge.
before. This is new,
No. Yeah, this is new.
right? See, and this is
Yeah.
the thing, okay?
Mm-hmm.
People who are committed to growth, and I've been guilty of this myself, because we're committed to growth, I sometimes don't even remember what it was I did a year ago or 5 years ago that people still look at as like, wow, that's huge, right? And
Yeah.
she just do it once, she did it 5 times, and she just didn't do that, you know, whatever. Facebook memories, I upload everything in my Facebook memories because it's a reminder for me of how
Mm.
far I've come, and I can contrast the difference of what Lisa was thinking back in that day to the degree that I'm no longer thinking those things now. I'm more
Yes.
open. I'm more expansive. I'm committed to climbing a higher mountain. Um, so, and I do that as visual proof and evidence that if I can do it, for anybody who chooses to hop on my pages or, you know, resonates with me or whatever, if I can do it, anybody can do it. And it might be totally different set of goals, intentions, aspirations, whatever, different purpose,
Mm-hmm.
different whatever. But I've never hid behind playing small because I'm a single parent. I've never hid behind it because I'm an incest survivor. I've never hid behind it because I'm, you know, for whatever the reason, right?
Mm-hmm.
No, I did all of what I did, choosing to live fearlessly in spite of it.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
spite of it. So it's really the biggest obstacle for any of us. It's overcoming ourselves, overcoming our own limiting beliefs, the restrictions that we feel inclined to put upon us. Because if we put restrictions on us, then we don't have to play a bigger game. If we put restrictions on us, we don't have to really step outside of our comfort zones.
Mm.
If we place limitations on ourselves and reside in that comfortable space of nothingness or stagnancy or complacency or mediocrity, then no one's going to fault us, including ourselves, for not doing anything differently 1 year from now, 2 weeks from now, right?
Right.
Right? So,
Yeah.
but I think it's more painful and I think it's more uncomfortable because of how I choose to live my life, to have anything in my life that has always stayed the same.
Mm.
That's an indication I've not grown. Like, shit, what's happened
Yeah.
to me that I can look back and that's just all too familiar and it's all too the same. That, I mean, one, it's boring for me personally. It's boring,
Yeah.
and what that says to me is that that's a lack of growth, or I've reached a
Yeah.
stagnation point and I'm not upping my game. I'm not tweaking
Mm-hmm.
things. You don't have to start something every day brand new, but you
Yeah.
can constantly hone the things you're doing well and make it better.
Yeah, for sure. This is great. Lisa, you're awesome.
Monica, you're awesome. Right?
I love you.
You can only see in me what you see in yourself.
Oh, that
Right?
is a cool thing. Okay, so as I told you earlier, I want to talk for 8 hours, and we have just under an hour on here. But we're going to do our Instagram after party.
Yes.
Can we elaborate on that? Because I would love to talk about that, how you only see in others what you see in yourself.
Everything is a mirror. Everything
Okay.
is a mirror. It's a reflection. Right? If you err on the side
Yeah.
of the world being shit and we're all going up in smoke and the zombies are coming and it's the big
Yeah.
apocalypse, right?
Yeah.
If you choose to see the world through that filter, and that is a choice, people forget you have choice.
Mm.
How you choose to show up, but also how you choose to interpret your external environment. And if you don't like your environment, change your environment. If you don't like the way you're seeing things or perceiving things, change the way that you're apt to perceive things and see things. Right?
Yes.
It's all
Right.
changeable. It's all
Yeah.
changeable. Right?
So great. Yeah. Yeah, we do have the power, you know? And
Yes, we do.
we need more people like you, people
And
who
you.
can coach and thank you, and help and mentor and give people that strength, like pull that out of them, that they can move forward and make changes in their life and do all this wonderful stuff. Like, I mean, the contrast in your life is so extraordinary, and look at you. I mean, look where you are. I think it's just amazing.
Well, I
You're wonderful,
appreciate
Lisa
that.
McDonald.
Well, so are
You
you,
are.
Monica Graves. So are you. But you know what? It's what it comes down to for me, and I say this all the time, and this is one of my daily mantras, proclamations, in terms of getting really grounded on a very simple concept that people lose sight of all the time. And it's so cliche, but it gets so overlooked and it gets so ignored and bypassed and dismissed. Life, and we know this particularly in this pandemic, right? Life is so short. And you know, we all come with an expiry date, and I don't care what people's religious, spiritual, philosophical ideas of what life looks like after we extinguish from the physical realm in the here and now. Whether you believe that you transcend lifetimes and you come back in reincarnation, or once you're in the ground, you're in the ground, and that's like whatever. I don't care what people think. You're welcome to your opinion. But at the end of the day, I mean, we've all attended enough funerals. We've read enough obituaries. We've heard secondhand. We don't not know anybody who knows somebody with cancer, if it's not been in our own families, which it has been for me and my family. You know, so it's like, you know, the things that show up in history, like 9/11, you know, as that changed the face and the course of everything in our history. Well, there was that time where we saw the camaraderie and we saw people embracing each other who did not know each other. And we saw all of the candles and we saw all the posters and the missing posters and all the interviews. And it was a big love fest because we were tapped into the fragility of life, right? In that moment, we all felt what we felt and it was magnified.
Yes.
But then, you know, a certain period of time passes by, and then if we're looking at news specifically as a reference, there's always bad news popping up. And it's to the point where I think people get desensitized to how fragile life is, right? People think they're invincible. People think that things unexpectedly don't happen. One day we're here, tomorrow we're gone. That's going to be the reality for all of us. And so because I don't have a crystal ball and I don't know when my time is going to be up, I live every day as if it were my last. Did I say enough? Did I give enough? Did I do enough? Did I show up enough? Did I tell people that I love them? Did I tell people that I forgive them? Did I tell people that they meant something to me, or the ways in which they transformed my perception or how I chose to show up that day, right? It all comes down to choice. Everybody sits on shit. People sit on shit, whether it's your personal goal, your business, your friendships, your family, your loved ones, your significant partner, your whatever. And people think they've always got that window of time in which to say the things that not only should be said right now, but things that are already long overdue to be said.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we
Yeah.
hold that in? Why do we harbor that? Who's benefiting, right?
Yeah.
Right?
That's
Don't make
right.
it a guessing game. Tell people that you love them when you have the opportunity in which to do so. We're both
Mm-hmm.
able-bodied. We have our faculties straight. Sign language it. Do a poster.
Yeah.
Give a gesture of kindness. Like do something to let somebody know to what degree they matter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Don't say it when
That's
they're dead and you're giving them a
no.
eulogy or you're doing a
Yeah.
write-up in an obit in the newspaper. Right? Or it
Yeah.
goes through a community newsletter or oh, I
Yeah.
remember the day when. Does that person know that you remember the day when? Because it meant that much to you that you would bring it up in a speech or a eulogy or tell a room full of
Yeah.
100 people who have attended a funeral or whatever? Does that person
Mm-hmm.
who's now gone know that that's what stuck out for you about them in your mind?
Mm-hmm.
And if
Yeah.
not, why not?
It's so true. My mom, when my dad passed away in 2012, but before that it was his 70th birthday, so 7 years prior. She put a book together, a memory book for my dad, where all of his friends wrote in it
Beautiful.
beautiful memories, situation, stuff that my brother and I didn't know about it. And it was such a gift to the family after he died, because we got to read all these beautiful things about him that other people had told him, exactly what you're saying, while he was living.
Mm-hmm.
And I did the same thing for my mom for her 80th. I gathered all these little, and it's such a gift. Lisa, we got
Yes.
to go to Instagram Live next. I'm taking you to the next party.
Yeehaw. Well, Monica,
Yeehaw!
I want to thank you
I
so
love you.
much. I love you
Thank
and I
you.
appreciate the gift of your time and doing anything in the arena where we get to work and play and it really being
Oh,
play. I just want to say thank you. I take nothing for granted and I take nothing lightly. This has been beautiful.
oh,
So
this
let's do this
has.
after party
So we're
thing.
going to do this after party thing. I'm going to say goodbye to you on StreamYard for now. And
Okay,
then I will text you when I go live on Instagram and you'll join me over there. Sound good?
all right.
All right, girl. Love you.
Love you too.
Oh, thanks you guys so much for tuning in. Lisa McDonald, how wonderful. Those are some pretty powerful life lessons that she gave today. And we're going to take this party over to Instagram now. So if you are able to join us there, we'll be going live. If you're watching this video on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel. We would love to have you. And remember, if you want some nice new threads for fall, check out my friend Brenda Bedome, BrendaBeddome.com. Use the coupon code Get to Know Her for 13% off of your order. And I will leave all that information in the comments below. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful rest of your week. And we will see you next week on the Get to Know Her show.